count one, the defendant is not guilty. As to count two, the defendant is not guilty. So say will this 5th day of February, 2025.
In a courtroom filled with tension and disbelief, Collin Griffith, a young man accused of killing his own mother, was found not guilty. The verdict stunned the community and left many questioning the justice system. This wasn't the first time Collin Griffith had been at the center of a shocking murder case. To fully understand the gravity of this verdict, it's crucial to look back 2 years earlier, when a then 15-year-old Collin Griffith fatally shot his own father, a crime for which he was never charged. In February 2025, a Florida courtroom witnessed a controversial verdict. 17-year-old Collin Griffith was acquitted of all charges related to the death of his mother, Collin Griffith. The jury found him not guilty of both first-degree murder and kidnapping. Collin's defense centered on claims of self-defense, painting a complex picture of a tumultuous mother-son relationship. But to fully grasp the gravity of this case, we must journey back to an earlier, equally tragic event. In February 2023, as couples around the world exchanged heartfelt gifts and celebrated Valentine's Day, a far darker reality unfolded inside the Griffith household in Lincoln County, Oklahoma. Love was absent that day, replaced by tension, conflict, and ultimately, tragedy. At just 15 years old, Collin Griffith became the center of a chilling crime that would mark the beginning of a tragic saga. In the quiet neighborhood, a heated altercation between father and son spiraled into deadly violence. According to Collin, his father, Charles Griffith, had pulled a knife and chased him through the house, ultimately trapping him inside a bedroom. Fearing for his life, Collin claimed he acted in self-defense, grabbing a gun and firing 2 fatal shots, one striking his father in the head and the other in the chest. In the tense moments following the fatal shooting of his father, Collin Griffith dialed 911. His voice was described as calm and composed. He told the dispatcher that an argument with his father had spiraled out of control. Collin claimed he acted in self-defense, grabbing a rifle and firing 2 deadly shots. The exact reason why Charles Griffith allegedly chased his son, Collin, with a knife on that fateful Valentine's Day remains a mystery. The case was shrouded in controversy from the very beginning. With no eyewitnesses and limited physical evidence, prosecutors faced an uphill battle in challenging Collin's self-defense claim. Unable to definitively disprove his account of the events, they ultimately dropped all charges, allowing the teenager to walk free. But while the legal system released him, a grim chapter that would follow him, foreshadowing an even more unthinkable tragedy. The tragic event didn't happen in isolation. They were the result of years of tension and unrest within the Griffith family. For years, Charles and Collin Griffith had been locked in a bitter custody battle, filled with mutual accusations and resentment. Collin claimed Charles had alienated Collin from her, closely monitored her social media, and even tried to discredit her. On the other hand, Charles painted Collin as unstable and abusive, alleging she once sent Collin a handwritten suicide note. The conflict inside the home only made things worse. Collin alleged that Charles was controlling and abusive, keeping Collin isolated from the world, even stopping him from attending school. She also claimed that Charles punished Collin for coming out as gay, restricting his movements and cutting him off from social interactions. After the tragic death of his father, Charles Griffith, in February 2023, 15-year-old Collin was placed under the guardianship of his mother, Collin Griffith. On social media, Collin portrayed a harmonious relationship with her son, sharing joyful images with wide smiles and heartfelt messages. On Father's Day, Collin shared a heartfelt photo with Collin, celebrating the occasion. She proudly posted a photo of Collin's new car, captioning it, Happy early graduation present. I love you and am so proud of you. In addition to the celebratory posts, Catherine frequently shared snapshots of their family adventures, including trips to the White House, Disneyland, and various vacations. These images depicted a seemingly joyful mother-son duo exploring new places and creating cherished memories together.
What's up? Check out my whip, bitch.
He's getting more confident with it. What?
You can drift in this motherfucker.
Yes,
You're driving this better than you drive your own car.
Despite having an older son, Christopher, Catherine's Instagram predominantly featured photos with Collin, with only a few images, including Christopher. However, beneath this focus and public displays of happiness, the mother-son relationship was fraught with escalating tensions and conflicts, setting the stage for the tragic events that would later unfold. In September 2023, authorities conducted a mental health check after Collin reported an altercation, alleging his mother had threatened to harm herself or him. Catherine denied these claims, leading to Collin's hospitalization for psychiatric evaluation. The discord reached a critical point in November 2023. Collin was arrested for domestic violence after attacking his mother during an argument over revoked video game privileges. He allegedly pulled her hair, kneed her in the groin, and stomped on her. Collin claimed he acted in self-defense, stating that his mother had punched him first, though no visible injuries were found on him. During this incident, Collin expressed his desire to be placed in foster care, saying he was in a constant state of fight or flight and feared he might harm his mother if forced to live with her.
And when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So, yeah.
How was that?
I shot him when he tried to kill me.
I'm trying to figure out why we would have a corporal at the jail that took you out, that dropped you off with your mom and telling us that you said, don't put me in the car with her, I'm going to kill her.
I'm in a constant state of fight or flight, and I don't know. If I think she's going to do something, even if she's not, I might act. I'm not going to, go crazy or anything, but I'm not sure, honestly.
Collin alleged his mother threatened to kill him, herself, and asked him to use the gun on her. Catherine denied the claims and told deputies Collin was upset because she took away his phone and AirPods over his failing grades. Collin's mental state had long been a cause for concern. Authorities had previously placed him under Florida's Baker Act, a law that allows for the temporary detention of individuals deemed a danger to themselves or others, after he made alarming threats to harm himself or his mother. Collin made a chilling declaration to deputies, warning that if he were forced to return to his mother's custody, he would kill himself or his mom. And despite his pleas to be placed in foster care, Collin was returned to his mother's custody. His grandmother, Susan Deathman, also raised red flags about his behavior, describing his severe anger management issues and emphasizing that he needed medication, a recommendation that seemingly went unheeded.
I do think that he has anger management issues,
problems, yeah.
and he probably needs to get on medication.
But he's not on medication as far as you know.
By February 2024, tensions between Collin Griffith and his mother, Catherine Griffith, had escalated significantly. Collin fled their residence in Charlotte County, seeking refuge with his grandmother in Auburndale, Florida. In a decision that would later prove tragic, DCF returned him to his mother's home in Charlotte County, exactly 1 year after his father's death. This action disregarded Collin's explicit warnings and the documented history of familial strife, setting the stage for further turmoil. Despite Collin's alarming threats over the subsequent months, Catherine Griffith's social media portrayed a facade of familial harmony. She frequently shared images of outings, trips, and bestowed expensive gifts upon Collin. This public display starkly contrasted with the underlying tensions and previous violent incidents within the family. In early September 2024, tensions between 17-year-old Collin Griffith and his mother, Catherine Griffith, escalated following an argument over household chores. This dispute prompted Collin to leave their home in Port Charlotte and seek refuge at his grandmother's residence in Auburndale, Florida. And despite Catherine's efforts to persuade him to return, Collin remained steadfast in his decision to stay with his grandmother. So on September 8, 2024, Catherine drove to Auburndale, determined to bring her son back home. Tragically, this encounter culminated in a fatal altercation. Around 6 p.m., Collin called 911 and told the dispatchers that his mother was hurt after fell on a knife during a very long fight. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, law enforcement officers said that Collin told them that he and his mother had gotten into a fight, and during the argument, his mother lunged at him with a knife and fell on it, causing a deep stab wound in her neck. The 911 operator provided Collin with instructions on administering life-saving measures. Upon arrival at the scene, Polk County Fire Rescue and deputies found Catherine unresponsive, and she was pronounced dead. Deputies attempted to question 17-year-old Collin Griffith about the circumstances surrounding his mother's fatal injury. However, Collin became immediately uncooperative and asked to speak to a lawyer, refraining from providing further details at that time. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd later addressed the media, expressing skepticism regarding Collin's account of the events. Sheriff Judd highlighted inconsistencies between Collin's initial 911 call and the physical evidence. Judd also stated that the medical examiner's autopsy further contradicted Collin's narrative, revealing that the fatal neck wound was inconsistent with an accidental fall onto a knife.
A cold-blooded murder of a 39-year-old mother by her 17-year-old son. And it's not just a singular murder, but as we got into the investigation, we found that about a year and a half, maybe a year and 8 months, 9 months earlier, he murdered his father in Oklahoma. So it all started on September the 8th, which was this last Sunday, when we got a 911 call from Collin Griffith, who's 17 years of age. And here's what he said. He said he and his mother had a very long fight, and she fell on a knife and killed herself. And she's bleeding from the neck. He didn't say she killed herself, said he's bleeding from the neck. So our 911 operators appropriately were giving him instructions on how to do life-saving techniques. He met the deputies outside, and he was calm, cool, collected, not upset, and he had blood on him. What we found inside was this knife. This knife is 12 inches long, and of the 12 inches, 8 inches of that is the blade. So he's saying that his mother fell on this knife. The next morning at the medical examiner's office and the autopsy, the medical examiner said it is not reasonable or plausible that she died the way that he said she did. Just didn't happen.
These inconsistencies, coupled with witnesses, told detectives that they saw Collin Griffith and his mother outside the mobile home arguing, and that they saw him grab his mother by the hair and drag her inside the house. Investigators said witnesses told them that Catherine Griffith repeatedly pleaded with her son to let me go. This tragic event occurred approximately 19 months after Collin had fatally shot his father in Oklahoma, a case in which he was not charged after claiming self-defense.
There were witnesses outside the mobile home that actually saw Collin drag his mother into the house by the hair on her head. But let me go through some details, because as we start to peel back the layer of this onion, on February 14th, 2023, on Valentine's Day in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, Collin said that his dad pulled a knife on him, and he shot and killed his dad. That's right. His father was named Charles. He shot him once in the chest and once in the head, and he claimed self-defense. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations charged Collin with murder in the first degree. They dropped the charges less than a month later. They said they could not disprove Collin's assertion of self-defense. So he was released. In March of 23, just barely a month after the original murder of his father, he came to Charlotte County, Florida, to live with his mother. And when he came to live with his mother, Collin Griffith, who was 39, you would think things would be better. He would be really, really lucky that, hey, this was a self-defense and I'm here with Mom. But 6 months later, guess what happened? He's Baker acted. So it's September, and as he's getting out of the original Baker Act, he makes a statement that, well, I'll kill myself, or I'll kill my mother by shooting or stabbing her. Charlotte County re-Baker acts him the same exact day. They keep him 3 more days. Now we're 2 months later. This is November 2023. Collin then is arrested for domestic violence on his mother. And the reason he battered his mother is because she was disciplining him and took his video game privileges away. So he beat up his mother. He pushed her to the ground, and he stomped on her. The grandmother was there and witnessed this. Collin said, it was self-defense. She made me do it. The grandmother said, no, no, no. Your mother did not provoke this at all. 3 months later, 12th of February in 2024, he has an argument with his mother, and he runs away from Charlotte County and comes back to Auburndale to his grandmother's house. Now, his grandmother's not there. And we got involved in this on the 12th of February, and the mother said, and the grandmother said, hey, we don't feel safe with him around. So our deputies who found him up here as a missing persons reported in Charlotte County turned him over to DCF. 2 days later, on the 14th of February, the anniversary of him killing his dad a year ago, he's reunited with his mother by DCF. Collin made the statement that I don't want to go home. I'll use any force necessary to avoid it, to include killing my mother. So that's the second time he threatened to kill his mother. About 2 weeks later, in March of 2024, they reunite Collin with his mother again. Everybody's calmed down. Now in May of 2024, Collin graduated from an alternative high school in Charlotte County and began attending community college. Now let's advance 4 months later to September the 6th. Collin has an argument about home chores, and he flees from his mother's house again and comes up to his grandmother's house. Grandmother's not there. She's in the Keys. So then Mom lets the event calm down, and she tells her son, hey, you need to come home. and she asked him to come home and face his responsibility. Collin says, I'm not coming back home. That was September the 7th. So now we're to the fateful day on September 8th. Mom drives up here to Auburndale from Charlotte County. She arrives at 4 o'clock. At about 4:30, witnesses and neighbors see Collin and Mom arguing outside, and Collin grabs his mother by the hair and drags her into the house. Just about 2 hours later, that's when we receive a 911 call where Collin said, I've had a very, very long fight with Mom, and she fell on a knife and she's bleeding from the neck. Our investigation clearly and unequivocally shows that that circumstance did not occur like that. In fact, he used similar language to when he made the 911 call, 18 or 20 months earlier, when he shot and killed his father. It's important to understand, when you look at this, you see a kid. When I look at him, I see a psychopath. I see totally erratic behavior, to the point that he's already, at 17 years of age, shot and killed his father and got away with it, and stabbed his mother in the neck so hard that the knife went all the way through and was to the back of her neck, and she died there. He's being charged with first-degree murder, obviously, and we're asking the state attorney's office, it's their decision, but our state attorney's office is the greatest, to prosecute him as an adult.
In January 2025, the trial of 17-year-old Collin Griffith commenced, capturing national attention due to its complex and tragic background. Collin stood accused of the first-degree murder and kidnapping of his mother, Catherine Griffith, in September 2024, a mere year after he had fatally shot his father, Charles Griffith, in Oklahoma, a case previously ruled as self-defense. The courtroom became a battleground where the prosecution and defense presented starkly contrasting narratives. Prosecutors contended that Collin's actions were deliberate, highlighting witness testimonies of a violent altercation where he allegedly dragged his mother by the hair into a residence against her will. They also pointed to inconsistencies in Collin's account, noting that his claim of Catherine falling on a knife was contradicted by medical examiner findings. Collin's defense team, led by attorney Amy Thornhill, presented a very different narrative. They argued that Collin had acted in self-defense, claiming that Catherine had a history of violence and instability. Thornhill suggested that Catherine may have even committed suicide by son, a theory that shocked the courtroom. The defense emphasized Collin's troubled upbringing, including the trauma of his father's death and his mother's alleged abuse. They portrayed Collin as a victim of circumstance, forced to defend himself against a mother who had once pointed a gun at him and asked him to shoot her. Thornhill also pointed to inconsistencies in the prosecution's case, arguing that the evidence did not conclusively prove Collin's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The trial featured several key testimonies that captivated the courtroom. The most dramatic moment came when the 911 call Collin made after the stabbing was played for the jury. In the call, Collin calmly told the dispatcher that his mother had fallen on a knife during a fight. The prosecution argued that his calm demeanor was evidence of guilt, while the defense maintained that it was consistent with shock and trauma.
911, what's the address of the emergency? Hampton in Florida. I don't know the fucking, I don't know the city address. My mom is talking to EMS now. She's bleeding out. Please help. Your mom is doing what? My mom's bleeding out. She's bleeding out. Okay, what's the address? Where do you think you are? What road are you at? What crosses that road? To Hampton in Florida. You go through the gates and you take the first right, and it's the house with the black dead out front. I'm trying to get Hampton in. The evidence, yes, ma'am. What city is it in? Well, it's Auburndale. It's a gated community. I can't interrupt. Okay, how do I lift someone? I need to get her to the hospital. How do I lift someone? Okay, this is called 911, and we're going to send in ambulance. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, what can I do? I have your price after what do I do? Help is being sent. Stay on the line, try and get more information for the responders. I am. I don't know what to do. Okay, help is being sent. Okay, medical help is being sent. She's bleeding out. Where is she bleeding from, sir? She's bleeding from the neck, man. This is my mother. I'm trying to detect it. Are you with the patient now? I'm with her. Yes, I'm with her now. How old is the patient? She's 39 years old. She has a heart condition. She has a, is she awake? No, she's unconscious. She's not okay. Is she breathing? No, she's not.
Forensic experts took the stand to discuss the nature of Catherine's injuries. While the medical examiner ruled that her wounds were inconsistent with an accidental fall, the defense argued that the evidence was inconclusive and could support Collin's claim of self-defense. Kathy Griffith's father, Robert Wallantas, testified that his grandson told him he wanted to kill his mother. He said, "I keep thinking over and over I want to slit her throat. I want her to bleed out. I want to feel the life and blood leaving her body." Susan Deathman, Catherine's mother and Collin's grandmother, testified in Collin's defense. She said that her daughter had been Baker acted several times and had a tumultuous relationship with family members. She told jurors that her daughter was unpredictable. After 5 days of testimony and 11 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Collin Griffith was found not guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping.
Rise and hearken to the verdict. Mr. Griffith, rise and hearken to the verdict.
State of Florida versus Collin Griffith. Will the jury find as follows? As to the defendant in this case, the defendant, as to count one, the defendant is not guilty. As to count two, the defendant is not guilty. So say we all, this 5th day of February, 2025.
Does the state wish to have the jury polled?
For Collin, it was a second acquittal in the deaths of his parents. For many watching, it was a controversial and perplexing outcome. Supporters of Collin celebrated the decision, believing that justice had been served. Others were outraged, convinced that a double murderer had walked free. Upon hearing the not guilty verdict, 17-year-old Collin Griffith exhibited visible relief and joy. He embraced his public defense team and smiled toward family members present in the courtroom, including his aunt and grandmother, who shared in his emotional response. The Collin Griffith case raises difficult questions about guilt, innocence, and the limits of the justice system. With 2 deaths in the same family, 2 trials, and 2 acquittals, the truth may never be fully known. What do you think? Was Collin Griffith wrongly accused, or did he get away with murder, twice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.